Hey, and welcome into Fantasy Focus. We are Daniel Dopp, Mike Clay, and Al Zeidenfeld. You can find us here every Thursday on ESPN's YouTube feed, as well as maybe a couple other places. We're trying to figure out where the video is going to go. Last week, we did not get the video up, unfortunately, but we are working on ways to make sure that you guys can see it. This week, we are also available wherever you get your podcast, presented by Geico, our audio podcast is. So, Mike Clay, it is week 2. We got a finite amount of time. We just did the season-long show. Let's get into some DFS talk. Does that sound good?
Let's do it. Let's do it, my friend.
Last week, week 1 recap.
We don't need to talk about that.
Let's just do it real quick. Al, last week, week 1 recap. I scored 154.96 points in our show league. Mike Clay scored less than 154.96.
I did.
Our big winner, though, was Defoe 11 with 188.76, bringing home the winnings. Congratulations, Defoe 11. Make sure you guys join our free league over at DraftKings. Search for Fantasy Focus DFS. At the same time, Mike and or I will tweet it out, a link to it. Mike always tweets it out with his lineup. We're going to do that again this week. $200 in free prizes. Guys, it costs no money to enter, nothing, and there is money that you can win as a part of entering the free contest. So if you're doing any kind of DraftKings, sign up, join our league, play against Mike and I, bring home some money.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. And we confused people last week because we said we don't tweet it out. What we meant was we don't tell people on social that it's a free league with cash prizes. We only tell you guys that. But you need to find the links, though. People are listening and then trying to find it and couldn't get into it. We get all these messages. So we'll still put the link out there on our social media for you.
Yep. All right. Let's start it off at quarterback, Mike, where Josh Allen comes in at $7,200 against division rival, the Miami Dolphins. What is it that you like about Josh Allen this week at that price point?
I like that he's $1,000 less than Kyler Murray. How about that?
That's
for a guy that was, elite last year. We loved using him. I mean, he's just too cheap here at $7,200. Quarterback 3 in pricing this week. And this guy has owned the Dolphins in his career. I mean, he has dominated them going all the way back to his rookie season, 29.7 fantasy points per game in 6 games against the Dolphins. That includes week 17 last year. He only played half the game. He still had tons of production, has 2 or more touchdowns in all 6 games, 21 plus points in his 5 full games against the Miami Dolphins, 29 plus in 4 of those 5 games. I mean, he's been money in the bank, and it's been high-end production against his team that he knows so well in that AFC East division. He had a rough week 1. That's part of why he's a little cheaper this week, but he was second in expected fantasy points with 28. He had 51 pass attempts and 9 carries in that game. So It was a rough start against a really good Steelers defense. Fine, you're going to have that. The volume is still there, still pass heavy, still 3 and 4 wide sets, still running the football at a high level. And Miami, they faced a rookie, Mac Jones, and allowed 281 passing yards in week number 1. So not too worried about that. I think all systems go for a bounce back for Allen here.
I like it. I like that call. Al, you want to talk about another quarterback here. That's Dak Prescott coming at $6,800 after a massive, I think he had 31 points last week in DK. What is it that you like about Dak coming in $300 cheaper than Josh Allen even?
So there's a lot of things to like about Dak Prescott. One, he's thrown for over 400 pass yards in each of the last 4 games that he has started and finished.
Is that good?
That's absurd.
Okay.
I don't know if you like carnivals, Daniel. You seem like somebody who likes to go to the fair, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Dallas Cowboys defense presents sort of a fantasy carnival sort of thing. I want all the funnel cakes. I want to ride on the Ferris wheel. I want to go to the Midway, and I want to win a stuffed bear. And that's exactly what this defense does. They've allowed 30 points in each of Dak's last 5 starts. So as efficient as this Cowboys offense has been and as many touchdowns as they produce, the defense gives up just as many. It's worse than, you remember when the Chiefs were in Mahomes' first year as a starter and their defense was really horrible and Mahomes was really efficient and the defense would keep giving up like 25 plus points a game? That's Dallas, but like 30% worse on defense. So it just keeps him churning out stats after stats. And efficiency, not volume, is what leads to quarterback scoring. But when you have an efficient offense with amazing weapons that we can stack in tournaments like Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, on top of an efficient quarterback that is forced to throw it 50 or 60 times a game, we get this carnival atmosphere, and it's great to bring it back with players on the other side as well. Dak Prescott is everything I want for even cheaper. You mentioned that Josh Allen, Mike, was 1,000 less than Kyler. Well, Dak Prescott's 400 cheaper than Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, I meant all offseason I said about the Cowboys offense, too good to fail.
Yeah.
You know, they're fast-paced. We saw that in week 1. So much talent. McCarthy came back, decided he wanted a high-volume, fast-paced offense. They've all, top to bottom, probably the most talented offense in the league. They'll have Zach Martin back this week. I mean, we saw that in week 1. We saw it play out, just enormous production. They're not going to have Michael Gallup, but, I mean, Cedric Wilson will step in the slot. They have some depth there. I mean, they have the 2 tight ends now. They have 2 running backs. They have 2 elite wide receivers. I mean, they're again, too good, too big to fail. I mean, that's the Cowboys offense for sure.
Heck yeah, I want to bring home a stuffed bear this week with this lineup.
It was very specific.
It was. Justin Herbert, a couple others that we like, just so you guys know, in case you don't want to go with either one of those, or your lineup construction doesn't allow you to have a quarterback that is that price. Justin Herbert, $6,700 taking on Dallas. We definitely like him.
Other side of that game, it could be a shootout there, Chargers, Cowboys.
I like that a lot. Tom Brady, $6,900 taking on Atlanta Falcons. Brady looked like an unbelievable. I mean, he looked incredible last week. Ben Roethlisberger, $5,900 taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. For a cheaper quarterback, that's not a bad price right there for Ben, Big Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you because you're going to give us some words from our sponsor who helps makes today's show possible.
Yes, I am, and that would be Geico. Do you own or rent your home?
I do, in fact.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
And I bet it can be hard work.
So hard.
You know what's easy?
Nope.
Bundling policies with Geico.
Oh.
Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
This podcast is also brought to you by The God's Honest Truth with Charlemagne the God on Comedy Central. You probably know Charlemagne as a brilliant idiot, a best-selling author, or simply as the radio guy. But now, get to know Leonard, a.k.a. Charlemagne, as the most radically honest host in late night. Every Friday night, Charlemagne's calling out the BS so you don't step in it. You can't push the culture forward without pushing a few buttons first. The God's Honest Truth with Charlemagne the God. New series premieres Friday, September 17th at 9 Central on Comedy Central. All right, let's talk about some running backs here, Mike Clay. And Najee Harris comes in at $6,300 taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Najee Harris still had a good workload last week, though. Is that why you like him here this week?
That's exactly right. Look, he's 11th in pricing at running back in this slate. Remember, it's only 13 games, and still he's 11th in line. He's behind guys like James Robinson and Miles Sanders, and he should not be. 6,300, just too little at home against the Raiders. And look, we've said it a million times, not the cream rises this time. We're going with volume is king.
Okay.
That's where we're going. That too, though. I guess cream rises. He's a first-round rookie, but he played 100% of the snaps.
That's all of them.
Christian McCaffrey usually doesn't play 100%. He'll play like 96. Najee Harris, 100% in week 1, 16 carries, 3 targets. The offensive line was a problem, 1.1 yards before contact. We need that number to go up a bit, but this guy can make plays, and as long as he's pushing for 20 touches, he's going to produce. The Raiders, by the way, you may recall, because this game was on Monday Night Football, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns on 26 touches to those Ravens running backs who were missing their 1, 2, top 3 running backs in that game. Still, they got beat up pretty good. The 6th most fantasy points allowed to that position, and it's not new. The Raiders really poor against running backs last year, 4th most fantasy points allowed. So Najee Harris, I expect a big bounce back. He's not playing a really good Bills defense this week. They're hosting this Raiders team on a short week. I think he's in good shape for a bounce back.
Heck yeah, I like that. Another running back that I think is also in line for a bounce back, Austin Eckler. Not that he had a poor week 1, but I think he could have had a better week 1. And Al, you like him, $7,300, taking on the Dallas Cowboys at home. We just talked about the other side of that game when we were talking about everybody from Dallas. Al, what is it that you like about Austin Eckler this week in that $7,300 price point?
So I hear that love-hate is a big thing on the ESPN fantasy football street.
Sure is.
That's Daniel's column, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Daniel writes that every week. It's an ESPN Plus column, so go check it out.
Transitive property, yeah.
I both love and hate the way that the Chargers utilized Austin Eckler in week 1. I love the fact that they finally gave him some inside the 5 carries. Got 2 of those in week 1. Scored his first rushing touchdown in 350 days last week. And he had 15 red zone snaps while no other Chargers running back had more than 5. So, he's the guy now when they get in.
He's the guy now when they get in.
That's all we need to do. Oh, there he is.
To do.
Keep going, Al.
Yeah.
You're cutting in and out just a little bit. It's not your fault. You're all the way on the other side of the country.
Look, it's my fault. I got the Pony Express. The gerbil needed to get a drink. He's back on the wheel now.
Okay.
Okay. But what I
you're good
hated
now.
about the way that they utilized him in week 1 was that they did not throw Austin Eckler even one pass.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we get more than one pass, and considering that he has a touchdown or 4+ catches in all 7 games since he returned from injury last season. And again, he is visiting the Carnival this week. So if we can throw the man a couple of funnel cakes, that would be outstanding. Fantastic floor, big time ceiling. Great fantasy scoring environment here. Love Austin Eckler as a standalone or as a bring back player in a stack or a double stack.
Heck yeah. I love funnel cakes too.
Me too.
For the record.
Me too. I was actually at a fair this past weekend, the Cheshire Fall Festival.
yeah?
I did not have a funnel cake.
Oh, that's too bad.
Tacos.
What a
Failed.
Tacos were good.
bad
Taco
story.
truck.
You told a whole story about going to a fair and you didn't get a funnel
I
cake, and
know.
you were like, I should tell that to everybody.
I was a little disappointed,
Yeah,
but there
that's-
was a taco truck, and that's important too.
Wow.
'Cause
You know
can't
what
go
else
wrong
is
with
important?
Street tacos.
Couple other running backs that people might want to play
Nope,
here.
more food
Mike.
talk.
Okay,
More
let's
food
talk
talk.
about foods instead. Chris Carson, $6,100. Couple other running backs that we like, just because we always want to give a couple prospects that we enjoy here. $6,100 for Chris Carson, taking on the Tennessee Titans. David Montgomery, $6,100, taking on Cincinnati. Here's a quick note that Kyle put in here. The Bears went on bye in Week 11 last season. Since Week 12, so the week after the bye,
Oh, I see what you did there.
David Montgomery ranks second in the league in touches, yards, and touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
David Montgomery, $6,100. I like that price point. Chase Edmonds, $4,900. Zeke comes in at $6,200 against the Chargers. That seems low to me for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, remember, faced an elite Buccaneers defense in week 1. We knew already going in. They had the same defense back from last year that was you couldn't run on them at all, and Zeke couldn't run on them. I mean, someone did a cut-up of all his plays, and you're like, what did he want from the guy? He had nowhere to go. Every time he got the ball, he just got run over. It was not a fair a fair situation for him. It's going to be better this week against the Chargers.
Darrell Henderson, $5,700 against the Colts, and Devin Singletary at $4,900 taking on the Dolphins, like both of them as well. We're going to move ahead to wide receivers. Just keep this train rolling. Jamar Chase, $5,000 taking on the Chicago Bears. We saw a big week 1 from him after some struggles in the preseason, Mike, but $5,000 after that big week 1 feels like a really nice price point for this young rookie.
Yeah, I hate to do it because he was a little, he's a little arrogant about it last week. But our friend Kyle Soppe, he was telling us,
He was right.
He was like, yeah, you guys you're gonna be sorry about this one.
I hated it.
And I don't know. I thought there was a little like, you were kind of taking a chance there on the fact that he was going to be a full go because it seemed like he wasn't going to be. So props to Kyle. You nailed that one. And look, he's $5K this week. He was clearly the number 1 in that game. He led all Bengals offensive skill position players in snaps. He played 90%. Routes, he ran 29 of a possible 32. Targets, he had 7, and air yards with 119. So he was the guy right out of the gate. A terrific sign for the 5th overall pick in the draft. 5 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. He was a 15-scoring receiver, just kind of adding on to what he did in that game to prove a point, which is that he's priced way too low. He's the 37th priced wide receiver in this slate. Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, Brandon Ayuk, who's a backup at this point. Those guys all priced higher than Jamar Chase. Doesn't make much sense. Really good wide receiver cornerback matchup. We talked about that in the first show. You'll see a lot of Jalen Johnson, Kendall Vildor, young duo still proving themselves. The Bears struggled against wide receivers in week 1, and we saw that 5th most fantasy points allowed to that spot. 14 catches, 236 yards, and 3 touchdowns to Rams wide receivers in that game. So Jamar Chase still priced too low, and assuming he stays healthy and continues to play up to his pedigree, this price will be way higher. It's just going to go up. So this is your chance to take advantage of the low price.
Love that. Love that. Al, another wide receiver we want to talk about here, CeeDee Lamb, $6,400 taking on the Chargers. Obviously, we loved what we saw from Lamb last week. You think it's going to continue here in week 2 against LA?
I think it's going to continue for the next 17 weeks, to be honest with you.
I like it.
I mean, not even factoring in that Michael Gallup's injury, I think that opens up Ced Wilson a little bit more than CeeDee Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper both got like 15+ targets in week 1 against a really tough Buccaneers defense. And now they get the Chargers, who are a good defense, but not in the same stratosphere, in my opinion. Mike might disagree with me on that one. But the Chargers allowed the 10th highest touchdown rate on deep passes. Lamb saw 5 of the 8 deep targets in week 1. 15 targets is a massive amount. I'm not expecting that every week, but like 8 to 12 seems like it's going to be in his wheelhouse. Again, if he gets like, I don't know, 23% of the targets, but they throw it 50 to 60 times every single week, those target numbers are just going to mount and mount and mount. So like a ridiculous floor with access to a ceiling every week because of everything that is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Al, I have a question for you. Is there a game you like this week that you're interested in stacking maybe?
No.
No, nothing,
You think
nothing
I'm
stands
tipping
out?
my hand on where my lineup's going to go at the end of the show?
Yeah, no idea. There couldn't be.
Yeah.
It's not like we've done 3 positions and it's all the same game so
I love
far.
it.
So
I love it.
I could talk about other games, but like why?
Yeah,
Well, let's
fair. I mean, he's not wrong. I think it's my highest projected scoring. I think Chiefs Ravens might be 1, Chargers 2nd.
Yeah.
You can find out in the playbook at
Ooh.
ESPN Plus.
Hey,
That's
check that
tomorrow.
out. A couple of the wide receivers that we do like, though, this week. Marvin Jones, $4,700 taken on Denver. Still too cheap for Marvin Jones. I know there were some struggles last week with Trevor Lawrence, but still too inexpensive.
Yeah,
for
he did
him.
fine. He had a decent stat line, yeah.
Yep.
Volume, he was the number 1 in snaps and all that. Yeah, he's good to go.
Allen Robinson, $6,200 taken on Cincinnati. Calvin Ridley, $7,500 taken on the Bucks. Could be a nice stack there.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Woods, $5,700 taken on the Colts. Cortland Sutton, now that there's no Jerry Jeudy there, only $5,200 taken on the Jaguars. Will Fuller, back from his suspension, $4,800 taken on the Buffalo Bills. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Devonta Smith looked really nice last week, $5,400 taken on the 49ers. Cooper Kupp looked incredible in week 1, only $6,000 here this week. I think that's way too low as well.
Yeah, he and Robert Woods, $6K and $5,700 against the Colts.
I don't get it.
They might be without Xavier Rhodes again. I mean, I don't know why those prices are so low for the Rams receivers. I don't know if they meant 6,700 and 7,000, but it doesn't. I don't get it. So anyway.
And then Jalen Reagor at $4,100 coming in. Both of those Eagles wide receivers are nicely priced. Let me ask you a real quick question, and then we got to move on because we only have about 10 minutes left. Is it okay to go with a running back and a wide receiver on the same team? Because we talked about David Montgomery and how we like that matchup this week, but we also like Allen Robinson here, and they're both pretty good price points. How do you look at that in daily fantasy, understanding you're looking for upside a lot of time?
I think you could do it. Ideally, you want a running back in there that'll catch some passes too. You think about if you want to stack up a quarterback with a running back and receiver or tight end, you want it to be like an Eckler, Herbert, Keenan Allen, right, where he's going to catch a lot of passes. So with Chicago, you could. I mean, Damian Williams did play a lot last week, but Montgomery can get a handful of targets and pay off. And if they have a huge scoring game, it can work out. It's a little different, but I'll give a shout out to our friend Adam Levitan, who every year in the offseason does an article about how do you construct a 99th percentile Millie lineup, something like that.
Yep.
And in there, he said, some of them winning teams do lean toward stacks that have running back. Any player. It could be a quarterback and a running back and a receiver or 2 receivers. So I was a little surprised by that. But, it's history showed us last year that it worked out.
Kind of makes, you think about the idea, I'm just throwing this out there, but like a Darnold CMC and Robbie Anderson, right?
Yeah. Ideally, it's something like that.
You look at something like that, you're going to have some big games.
And Alice talked about that before, that's an ideal construct.
Yep. All right, let's talk about some tight ends here, Mike. Jared Cook comes in at $3,900 against
we haven't
Dallas.
talked about this game
Oh, you know
yet.
what? We haven't. Yeah, sorry. We haven't. Let's talk about this game really quickly. However, Jared Cook and the Chargers taking on Dallas, Mike. Let's be quick about it because we've talked about everything else. We've said so many great things.
Yeah, 11th in pricing. He's only $3,900. He's about half the price of Darren Waller. He's super cheap. There's no Kelsey on the slate. That's why I referenced Waller. 5 catches, 56 yards in week 1. 8 targets against Washington for Jared Cook. Donald Parham was close in snaps, so that might be viewed as a red flag, but Cook held an 8-to-1 edge in targets over him, 29-11 in routes. And you may recall, again, primetime game, the Cowboys are the opponent here, crushed by Rob Gronkowski in that game. 9 targets, 8 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns to the Bucs tight ends. That was the most fantasy points allowed to tight ends in week number 1. Cook in a terrific spot here. And again, a game we expect to be just a fantasy bonanza.
Yes, high-scoring fantasy bonanza. Al, Mike already alluded to it. There's no Travis Kelce this week. TJ Hockenson plays on Monday night against the Packers. So tight end is a little bit more bare up at the top. You've got Noah Fant you want to talk about here this week. Tell me what you like about Fant and the Broncos with their matchup.
I'm going to talk about Fant because Mike bullied me about talking about the Cowboys game too much. So
That's what it is.
Well, I had it covered that time. I didn't want you to steal Jared Cook from me. So
let's talk about Noah Fant by talking about Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was 4,400 last week and was a really popular play in cash games and in tournaments. And he ran a bunch of routes and he got targeted a lot. He had 8 targets last week and his price jumped from 4,400 to 5,200. Noah Fant was targeted on 32% of his routes. Had 8 targets, caught 6 of them. As you mentioned before, Jerry Jeudy, the other guy in that offense who's going to man the short to intermediate routes in the Broncos offense, is now out for half of the season. And Noah Fant's price is still $4,200. So to me, he is just entirely too cheap for the floor and the ceiling that his freakish athletic profile gives to us. Obviously, he's going to get more passes on target with Teddy Bridgewater than he is last year with Drew Lock at quarterback. So we have a situation where Noah Fant has this great floor, always brings a fantastic ceiling because of his downfield prowess, as well as his ability to break long touchdowns on short passes. It seems too good to be true. Am I wrong, Mike?
Nope, I'm with you. Love Fant too. He's the next guy on my list. So when we read off the other guys, they're also the guys that are great values in our DFS charts over at ESPN Plus. And Fant's the next guy. If I didn't pick Cook, I was going Fant. So we're on the same page there for sure.
Yeah, $4,200 against Jacksonville. He's a really great price point. Al, you also mentioned Darren Waller, another guy we like this week. $7,600 taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you think about whether or not you want to roster or start a guy that had 19 targets last week, Mike, do you think that's a good indicator that maybe he's a good football player that you could have in your lineup?
I would say so.
Okay. Tyler Higbee, $4,100 taking on the Colts. We love Tyler Higbee, and Matthew Stafford looked great in that offense. I mean, I know it's only one game, but if that's what that offense is going to look like, those pass catchers have a lot of upside this year. Kyle Pitts, $5,200 taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. We like him this week. All right. Football fans, I want to tell you that NFLSundayTicket.tv is like having front row seats to every live out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon. No matter where you live, streamed right to your favorite device. And this season, that means 18 weeks of glory and more games than ever before. Visit NFLSundayTicket.tv and order today. Use promo code FFF2021 at checkout to save 15%. That's FFF2021 at checkout to save 15%. Select international games excluded. Eligibility restrictions apply. Compatible devices required. Data charges may apply. All right, the time of the show that everyone wants to know about. It is Beard versus the Brain. Is it Beard versus Brain or is it Squirrel versus Brain?
I don't know. It says Squirrel versus the Brain on here. I think you changed the last one.
I like Beard versus the Brain.
Whatever.
Beard versus the Brain.
I vote for alliteration.
Yeah, I like the alliteration too. Beard versus the Brain is brought to you by Geico. Whether you rent or own, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. Go to geico.com today. Mike, give us your week 2 head-to-head lineup against me, the current leader in standings and total points scored in the DFS matchup. Go ahead, Mike Clay.
Well, first of all, I'm sure Geico is thrilled that our sponsored read there is not organized or we don't have a name for it. So maybe fix that this week.
Wow.
All right, come on, man. It's week 2.
Look at this.
Anyway, here's the winning lineup for week number 2. We're going with Joshua Allen at the quarterback position. Our running backs, Chris Carson against Tennessee. We didn't talk about him too much. David Montgomery going up against Cincinnati. Najee Harris as the Raiders. I talked about him, so I'm actually going with a running back in the flex this week. I just like how the value works out. Receivers sitting pretty here. DK Metcalf against Tennessee. Robert Woods against the Colts, way too cheap. Jamar Chase, I talked about him earlier, against Chicago. We're going with Jared Cook. You got to get a piece of the bonanza there, going up against Dallas. And then I'm going with the Vikings defense. Kind of punting that spot. It is a tough one going up against Arizona, but I do think they're going to be better. That team on paper way too good to be as bad as they were last week. So, that's it. I think I got a lot of talent in there. You could still work the numbers and put a pretty darn good lineup together.
Yeah, you really can. This is, in all honesty, I know we go back and forth at each other and we're not actually friends outside of work and we really hate each other. But this is a nice lineup. I got to be honest. This isn't too bad. That is a good looking lineup. My lineup for this week is Matthew Ryan, $5,600 taking on the
you
Bucs.
missed week 1. You were busy that Thursday.
I didn't miss week 1.
That Sunday. You didn't
Nope,
see that.
I'm not worried about it.
Oh, okay.
Ezekiel Elliott, $6,200, taking him, like him a lot too. Elijah Mitchell, $5,000. He's my running back too. Taking Keenan Allen against Dallas, $7,000. Christopher Godwin, $6,600 as a comeback there in that game against the Falcons. Calvin Ridley, $7,500 to pair with Matt Ryan. I got Cole Kmet. I like Cole Kmet in his $3,700 price point here. He looked far and away the number one tight end in that offense. Jimmy Graham is not someone I'm worried about, and I think there's still going to be targets for him. If he gets in the end zone at $3,700, I think I've made it.
Yeah, Kmet took over for Graham as the clear starter and saw a big target share in the second half last year, but it has not translated in fantasy yet. Hopefully at some point it will.
Yep, I'm banking on it this week. And then Cooper Kupp. I'm going with the other Rams wide receiver, so we'll see which one of us hits pay dirt there, $6,000. And then the Eagles, just because when I beat you, I just want it to feel extra sweet that your Eagles helped me bring home a victory.
Look, if the Eagles, you have Eli Mitchell and the Eagles, so if they shut him down, you're going to lose
That's not
anyway.
Happen. No,
so.
they're gonna.
So they're going to give up touchdowns, which
they're
also
going to intercept a couple passes. I see at least one pick six.
Well, okay. I mean, you have You have good wide receivers.
Oh,
I'll give you
thanks,
that.
Mike.
Well done.
Hey, thanks.
You got
for the
one
good
right.
wide
You got one
receivers.
spot right.
All right. Al, what about you? Let's get your lineup this week. We always love being able to hear from you. Former millionaire winner, Al Zeidenfeld. So we always pay extra close attention to Al's lineups.
So I'm going to go with my typical quarterback double stack, bring back with a secondary stack involved. 2 players stacked without a quarterback opposing one another. Starting with, guess what? Dak Prescott at quarterback. We're going to stack him with CeeDee Lamb and Cedric Wilson, who is only 3,100 and a screaming value with the amount of snaps that he's going to get for the Cowboys. I'm going to come back on the other side of that game and play Austin Eckler for 7,300. David Montgomery for the Bears is a standalone. He's a one-off player for me at 61. We spoke about him. I'm going to have Tyler Higbee at tight end, and I'm going to have my secondary stack be Marquez Callaway, who's 4,200, up from where he was last year after he posted kind of a stinker in week 1. I think he bounces back here against Carolina and their defense. And Christian McCaffrey, who you may have heard from his previous exploits at running back for the Carolina Panthers. I'm also going with the Vikings defense, who, as poor as they were in week 1, had 5 sacks. So I found a way to get basically 5 wide receivers into my lineup because Eckler and McCaffrey are just wide receivers who also get to run the ball when they get in close.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it.
That's a good lineup.
Yeah, I like it. Callaway is an interesting one, too. People are going to be scared off of him after last week.
Yep.
They had 20 pass attempts. That'll change. There will be more volume. He was the number 1 receiver. Better days ahead there.
Let's really quickly pay off last week. Al, you staked me in a $555 tournament. Unfortunately, while I set a lineup that I was pretty pleased with, did not cash that week. I just want to tell everybody what my lineup was, though, so they can understand where we went with it, okay? We had Ryan Tannehill. It was a double stack of Ryan Tannehill with A.J. Brown.
So you're done already. I mean,
and Julio Jones. Yep. The comeback was... Who was the comeback? Oh, Rondell Moore.
Oh, right.
Rondell Moore did not pay
ran
out.
as the 4th receiver.
Yep. Dalvin Cook and James Robinson were my 2 running backs. Dalvin Cook had a playoff of T. Higgins. That was my secondary stack there. And then the Jaguars defense got me -3. So I had people that I liked. I didn't think that it was a bad lineup. I liked the correlation, but it was not great. Did not work out in my favor. So this week we're going to try again, Al.
No, he's going to stake me now right after that embarrassment. I think.
Wow.
I mean, a couple of more weeks like that, I'm gonna have to pivot horses here.
Guys, no,
Yes.
you can't pivot horses. I'm your horse. I always want to be the horse.
Failing.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you again for listening to the podcast. Hopefully you're able to watch it this week on YouTube. We are so excited to be able to offer this to you guys. For Mike and Al, my name is Daniel. We love you guys so much. Don't forget to love each other, be good humans to each other, treat others with respect. We will see you guys next week, and good luck here in week 2.